191. Ouyang Xiu's reform of literary style. After Fan Zhongyan was ousted from the court, his colleague Fu Bai, who supported the new policies, was falsely accused of being Fan Zhongyan's ally and was dismissed from office. Han Qi, who defended both Fan Zhongyan and Fu Bai, also faced repercussions. At the time, although some people sympathized with Fan Zhongyan, they did not dare to speak up. Only the censor official Ouyang Xiu boldly submitted a petition to Emperor Renzong of Song, stating, "Throughout history, villains have always accused righteous people of forming cliques and monopolizing power as a means of slander. Fan Zhongyan is a valuable talent for the nation. Why should he be dismissed? If your majesty listens to the words of these schemers and removes loyal officials, it will only allow the wicked to prevail and bring joy to our enemies." Ouyang Xiu was a renowned literary scholar in Chinese history. He was a native of Luling, present-day Yongfeng, Jiangxi. His father passed away when he was 4 years old, and his mother took him to Suizhou, now Suixian, Hubei, to live under the care of his uncle. Despite their poverty, Ouyang Xiu's mother was determined to ensure his education. Since they could not afford paper or brushes, she used reeds from a pond near their home to draw characters in the mud, teaching young Ouyang Xiu how to read and write. Under his mother's guidance, Ouyang Xiu developed a deep love for books at an early age. By the age of 10, Ouyang Xiu frequently borrowed books from households with large collections. Sometimes, he even transcribed the borrowed books by hand. On one occasion, he borrowed a book from a family named Li. While there, he found an old book in their wastepaper basket. Upon inspecting it, he realized it was the collected works of Han Yu, a distinguished writer of the Tang dynasty. He requested to keep the book, took it home, and studied it carefully. During the early Song dynasty, the prevailing literary style emphasized ornate language but lacked substantive content. After reading Han Yu's essays, Ouyang Xiu found them to be clear, fluid, and well-argued, completely different from the prevailing literary trends. He diligently studied Han Yu's style and sought to emulate it. When he later traveled to the capital, Bianjing, present-day Kaifeng, to take the imperial examination, he consistently ranked first in all 3 rounds of the exam. By the time he was in his 20s, Ouyang Xiu had already gained significant literary fame. Although he held only a minor official position, he was deeply concerned with state affairs and was known for his uprightness and outspokenness. When Fan Zhongyan was exiled to the south after offending the powerful Chancellor Lui Jian, many officials sympathized with Fan. However, one official, Gao Ruan, supported Fan's exile. Enraged by this, Ouyang Xiu wrote a letter rebuking Gao Ruan for his lack of integrity. As a result, Ouyang Xiu himself was demoted and sent to a remote post. He remained in exile for 4 years before being recalled to the capital. This time, Ouyang Xiu once again spoke out in support of Fan Zhongyan's reforms, angering many powerful figures at court. They seized upon trivial matters to fabricate charges against him, leading to his banishment to Chuzhou, present-day Chuxian, Anhui. Chuzhou was surrounded by mountains and had beautiful scenery. During his time there, Ouyang Xiu not only managed administrative affairs, but also frequently explored the local landscapes. A Buddhist monk had built a pavilion on Langia Mountain in Chuzhou for travelers to rest. Ouyang Xiu often visited the pavilion, drinking wine and enjoying the view. He playfully called himself the Drunken Man and named the pavilion the Drunken Man's Pavilion, Zua Wing Ting. His famous essay, The Pavilion of the Drunken Man, became a literary masterpiece celebrated for generations. Ouyang Xiu served as a local official for more than 10 years before Emperor Renzong recalled him to the capital, appointing him as an academic scholar in the Hanlin Academy. As a Hanlin scholar, Ouyang Xiu actively promoted the reform of literary style. One year, during the imperial examination in the capital, he was appointed as the chief examiner. Seeing this as an opportunity to select talented individuals and reform the literary trends, he refused to accept any ornate but shallow essays. As a result, many candidates failed the exam and were furious with him. One day, while riding his horse outside, Ouyang Xiu was confronted by a group of these failed candidates. They loudly insulted him, causing a commotion. Eventually, patrolling soldiers arrived and dispersed the crowd. Despite this backlash, Ouyang Xiu's rigorous standards led to a significant transformation in the literary style of the examinations. Writers began focusing on substantive and concise content instead of flowery but meaningless prose. Ouyang Xiu not only worked to reform literary style but also made great efforts to discover and promote talented individuals. Many people who were initially obscure later became famous due to his recognition and recommendations. The most notable among them were Zhang Gong, Wang Engshi, Su Sun, and Su Sun's sons, Su Shi and Su Zhe. In literary history, Ouyang Xiu and these five figures, along with Han Yu and Lu Zongyuan from the Tang dynasty, are collectively known as the Eight Masters of the Tang and Song dynasties. 192. Bao Zhang, the incorruptible judge. After Fan Zhongyan's reform efforts failed, corruption in the northern Song dynasty worsened, particularly in the capital city of Kaifeng. High-ranking officials and aristocrats engaged in rampant bribery, and some members of the imperial family openly disregarded the law. However, when Bao Zhang was appointed as the new magistrate of Kaifeng, things began to change. Bao Zhang was a native of Luzhou Hefei, present-day Hefei, Anhui. Early in his career, he served as the county magistrate of Tianchang, now Tianchang, Anhui. One day, a farmer in the county discovered that his ox had been harmed. The previous night, he had tied the ox in the barn, but in the morning, he found it lying on the ground, bleeding from its mouth. Upon closer inspection, he saw that its tongue had been cut off. Overcome with anger and sorrow, he went to the county office to file a complaint, asking Bao Zhang to investigate the perpetrator. This seemed to be a case without any leads. Where could he even begin the investigation? After some thought, Bao Zhang told the farmer, "Do not make a fuss about this for now. Go home and slaughter the ox." The farmer was reluctant, as it was illegal to privately slaughter an ox at the time. However, given that the ox would not survive long without its tongue and that the magistrate himself had instructed him to do so, he followed the order. The next day, someone came to the county office to report that the farmer had illegally slaughtered his ox. Bao Zhang immediately changed his expression and shouted, "How dare you? You cut off the poor man's ox's tongue, and now you accuse him of slaughtering it?" The accuser was stunned and fell to his knees, confessing his crime. It turned out that he had a personal grudge against the farmer. First, he cut off the ox's tongue, then attempted to frame the farmer for breaking the law. This case earned Bao Zhang a reputation for his sharp judicial skills. Bao Zhang served in multiple local government positions. Wherever he was assigned, he abolished exorbitant taxes and corrected unjust cases. Later, he was transferred to the capital as a censor official, where he proposed numerous beneficial reforms. Recognizing his talents, Emperor Renzong of Song, who wanted to restore order in Kaifeng, appointed him as the prefect of Kaifeng. Kaifeng was a city filled with imperial relatives and powerful nobles. Previous magistrates had been unable to resist their influence, inevitably forming connections with them and accepting bribes. Determined to eradicate corruption, Bao Zhang instituted major reforms. According to Song dynasty law, anyone wishing to file a lawsuit at the magistrate's office had to first hire someone to draft the complaint and then submit it through court clerks. This process gave corrupt intermediaries an opportunity to extort money from the people. Bao Zhang abolished this practice. Instead, he placed a large drum outside the court, allowing citizens to strike it if they wished to bring a case directly before him. When the drum sounded, the court's main gate would be opened, and the complainant could present their case in person. This reform prevented corrupt clerks from tampering with complaints. One year, Kaifeng was hit by severe flooding. The drainage of the Huimin River was blocked, causing water to accumulate. Upon investigation, Bao Zhang discovered that several powerful eunuchs and officials had illegally occupied the riverbanks, constructing private gardens and pavilions that obstructed the water flow. He immediately ordered these structures to be demolished. One high-ranking official refused to comply, arguing that he had a land deed proving the property was his. However, upon closer examination, Bao Zheng found that the deed was a forgery. Furious, he ordered the immediate demolition of the illegal structures and reported the case to Emperor Renzong. Realizing that the matter had escalated and fearing the emperor's wrath, the official had no choice but to comply. After hearing of Bao Zheng's strict enforcement of the law, many corrupt officials became too afraid to engage in misconduct. Some nobles attempted to bribe him but were warned by others. Don't bother, Bao Zheng is known for his integrity. Indeed, during his tenure in Duanzhou, modern-day Zhaoqing, Guangdong, Bao Zheng had demonstrated his incorruptibility. Duanzhou was famous for its inkstones, and it was customary for local officials to present a tribute of Duan inkstones to the imperial palace each year. However, many officials used this as an excuse to exploit the people, collecting far more inkstones than required and using them to bribe powerful figures at court. The number of inkstones extorted far exceeded the official tribute. When Bao Zheng took office, he collected only the amount necessary for the tribute and not a single extra piece. Throughout his time in Duanzhou, he never accepted a single inkstone for personal use. Upon hearing this, the nobleman who had intended to bribe him gave up, realizing there was no way to manipulate him. In time, the people of Kaifeng came to regard Bao Zheng as a symbol of justice. A popular saying spread among the citizens: if you don't have connections, you still have Lord Bao, or even the underworld judge Yama. Yama refers to the deity who governs the underworld in Chinese folklore, implying that if all earthly justice failed, divine justice would still prevail. Bao Zheng was equally strict with his family and friends. Some relatives tried to use his influence for personal gain, but he refused to help them. Over time, they realized it was futile and stopped seeking his favor. Emperor Renzong greatly valued Bao Zheng's integrity and promoted him to Vice Minister of the Bureau of Military Affairs. Even after rising to a high position, Bao Zheng maintained a simple lifestyle, living no differently from ordinary citizens. After 5 years in office, he fell seriously ill. Before passing away, he left a will stating, "If any of my descendants become officials and are found guilty of corruption, they are not allowed to return to our ancestral home. If they die, they must not be buried in our family cemetery." Because Bao Zheng remained honest and upright throughout his life, he was not only respected during his lifetime but also revered after his death. The people affectionately referred to him as Lord Bao, Bao Gong, and also called him Bao the Just or Bao Longtu, a title he held in the imperial court. Over time, numerous stories about Bao Zheng's unwavering integrity and fearless pursuit of justice were passed down. These tales were later adapted into operas and novels about his cases. Although many of these stories were fictionalized, they reflected the people's deep admiration for an honest and righteous official.